Hey everyone, I know for many of you, it may feel strange hearing my voice for the first time, so I'll try to keep this intro simple and straightforward. First off, I want to thank everyone for subscribing and watching my videos every week. Since I uploaded this masterpiece of a video back in February, we finally hit 100 subscribers. It means a lot to see that out of all the channels you've come across, you chose to stick with me. That being said, a lot of people seem to really love the more edited videos. And Igus. Now that I think about it, it's probably more just Igus.
Yoo-hoo!
And now that we're only a month away from the Answer DLC, it's a good time to see how well this game holds up with the massive overhaul it's gotten to look and feel a lot more like Persona 5. But rather than do a basic review of the game, I want to use this video to talk about my own personal takes, as well as how the community feels about it. And while we're on the topic of community discussions, you guys really gave me some good laughs with the comments you guys left while I worked on this video, so I really appreciate that.
No treat!
And that's pretty much all I wanted to say, so thanks again, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And this is my review of Persona 3 Reload. I'm not gonna lie, the concept of exploring a giant tower that seems to never end or change is what worried me most going into this game. And it's also what kept me from completing Persona 3 Portable. I'm not trying to diss the game though. I understand that even as an enhanced port, this entry is still the oldest of the modern Persona games. But for the people like myself whose first game was Persona 5 Royal, you can understand how jarring it felt to transition from this
Get away!
Take him down, Joker!
to this.
Are you all right? Don't push yourself.
I feel a little tired.
So, I just decided to wait until the remake was released and went on to play Persona 4 Golden instead. Fast forward to the release of Persona 3 Reload, and I was ready to give this game another shot. I still couldn't help but worry if this game would lose my interest like the last time though. But as soon as I finally had the remake in my hands, my perspective on this game immediately changed. Atlas really went all out with improving the battle system. The shift mechanic helps your attacks feel much more fluent. The new animations for critical hits, alt attacks, and theurgies are so vibrant and full of life. Each character felt so much fun to use, and no matter how many times I listened to it, the new battle theme never got old. And all that doesn't even compare to the new party conversations.
Okay, this silence is killing me. How about we play a word association game? I'll start. Team.
Leader, could you please tell him to— Hey, that doesn't count, okay? I'm not playing!
In all seriousness though, the battle system has been upgraded in almost every way possible. But it isn't perfect. Reload feels much easier compared to Royal. Enemies feel a lot weaker this time around, and most of the bosses are pretty straightforward and require little to no effort to beat. And this is without taking New Game Plus bonuses and DLC into consideration.
Come!
I guess what they were going for was to reward the player for the amount of time they spent exploring Tartarus, and making this game accessible to new players. And while you can always just raise the difficulty, I think some rework and balance changes could have been made to at least challenge the player a little more. This didn't ruin my experience though, as the difficulty was never an issue for me. But if there was something I really had to nitpick with the battle system, it would be the lack of options to speed up the battle process, like in Persona 5 Royal. So, for those who don't know or don't remember, Persona 5 Royal had two important features that would help speed up the pace of battles. which were Ryuji's insta-kill move, and the skip button for all attacks and showtimes. I can understand replacing the insta-kill with the new ambush feature, as it would completely break the game. But not having a skip button makes the least amount of sense here, since all there is to do is defeat enemies. Don't get me wrong, it looks nice, but when you're spending 10, 20, 30, 40, or even more hours grinding battle after battle, those small animations start to add up. But again, this is just a nitpick to a great combat system. Tartarus is still a bit of a slog to get through, but even the smallest changes help make the process a little less tedious. Then, there's the time you spend outside of Tartarus.
It is morning. I request that you wake up.
But get this, she's a teacher at our school.
Man.
You gotta promise you won't tell anyone, okay? It might look weird if a teacher and a student are having a thing, no?
This way, officer.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, this game has the weakest social links in the entire series. But wait, hear me out. Let's just get the cons out of the way first. A good portion of the social links can be pretty unlikable at times. It also doesn't help that most of the time, it feels like your character is simply taking the backseat in these conversations, or worse, encouraging their terrible attitude just to get extra points.
Yes, because it is nonsense. Bunch of Neanderthals. Try not to hold it against them. Oh, hey, what is it? Did you need something from me?
Are you stupid or something?
You bet I am. If it wasn't for you, I would have become a tyrant. So, thank you.
Me?
At some point, I was getting so tired of Suemitsu's BS, I started skimming through his dialogue because he was too frustrating to deal with.
Fine. You're gonna try and stop me? Then you and I are through!
Hip hip hooray, as they say.
The worst part is, all of your male party members don't have their own fully fledged social link. Sure, you have linked episodes and dorm activities to make up for it, but it gives you even less time to complete every social link. Or maybe I just suck. I feel the character that was affected by this decision the worst was Junpei. While he does have his moments in the main story, there is almost nothing memorable from the episodes. And it's a shame, because I love Junpei, and the guy best friends in Persona 4 and 5 are my favorite social links in the entire series. To be honest, the only thing I can remember with him is when you catch a stray just by existing.
What's going on with us? You never give me some sugar. Did I do something?
Yeah, you were born.
Wow, that's heavy. I gotta get out of here.
Dude, no wait!
That and baseball. It honestly would have been better if some of the social links were replaced by your party. I'm not gonna name specifics, but there are 7 social links that are club related at Gekkoukan High. I think at least 2 or 3 of those social links could have been cut. So, what are the pros? Well, it's funny? I know that doesn't sound all that great, but let me explain. Having a story that makes you angry or makes you laugh is much better than having a story that gets no emotion out of you. Sure, there are some annoying characters, but that's much better than having characters that are completely two-dimensional. And besides, each of these characters still have their moments, and have made me laugh at least once or twice in their stories. And that goes for the rest of the slice of life portion of the game. It may not be as massive and detailed as P5R's Shibuya, or even the countryside of Inaba, but it still has its charm. Also, one last thing. I just wanted to talk about the debate of the soundtrack for a moment, just to say, it's really good. The new tracks introduced are very solid, and so are the remakes. I get that some people really love the original soundtrack. I have songs that I enjoy more in the original game too. But I've seen people treat the new OST like it was conjured up by Satan himself to spite us. Like, come on, just give the remixes a chance.
Man, give it a chance!
No, nobody give it a chance. Nobody give it a chance. Trash. That's why it's trash. Listen to that shit, but it just sounds dirty. It's dirty.
Sorry, I just had to rant about that for a second. Persona 3's story is much different from its predecessors. Unlike the following games, there isn't a higher being who's controlling the world behind the scenes. By the time you reach the end of the game, there isn't a grand reveal of some god who was the grand puppet master behind the scenes. Sure, Ryoji and Nyx are the key to activate the fall, but it's what was destined to happen. And the fall as a whole isn't exactly treated as a matter of black and white. What you're really fighting here is simply a predetermined fate. Your party also has to go through much tougher hurdles. With the investigation team and Phantom Thieves, a new character joins the group as soon as a major development in the story happens, and the new character is also able to overcome the first obstacle in their own story. Whereas Persona 3 Reload says, hey, check out this cool dog we found on the street. There's also a lot of infighting and setbacks that occur throughout the course of the story. Many of the characters don't know each other all too well, and have a hard time getting along for a good portion of the game. And despite the progress they make from defeating the 12 Shadows, the light at the end of the tunnel doesn't get any closer due to secrets being kept from the team. Seriously, the things these kids have to go through compared to the other games is crazy. From watching their loved ones die in front of them, to having the decision on how humanity will end be forced on them. But it's also these events that push the team even further to live their life the best they can. It makes each character's growth really gratifying to watch to the very end. Sadly, the same can't be said for the villains. Even though we do get some interesting lore on Strega and the Kirijo group experiments, sometimes it feels like they have no purpose being there. Chidori's story was okay, but the way Takaya leads the group feels aimless. At first, they were just wandering around Iwatodai only using their personas because they cared more about using their power for their own personal gain. But then they tried to flip the script halfway like, actually reviving Nyx and becoming Harbingers of the Fall was our plan the whole time. And Jin is just cool doing whatever Takaya wants because...
Win this one because I told you to!
Because you told me to!
Yeah, I got no clue. At least their presence was enough of an imposing threat on my first run, because if everyone was just cool with letting this half-naked crazy person casually roam the streets carrying a gun out in the open, then there's clearly no one that could stop him.
My coat is invisible to fools.
But this was the only gripe I had on an otherwise solid story. On top of great storytelling, the voice actors have delivered perhaps one of the best performances I've heard throughout the entire series, just behind Persona 5 Royal. Which brings me to my next point. I prefer the English dub.
What was that? I've been waiting for this!
I've heard way too many people, not only in my videos, but throughout the community saying the English dub is an absolute stinker compared to the original. I want to assume that most of the people saying this are simply sub over dub supremacists, but even then, it's still unjustified when many of the people claiming this haven't even tried it. I did find a good point made on a video on why this guy prefers the Japanese version. Aigis is actually a perfect example that displays how one character can be portrayed in two completely different ways. The original version can sound like a public announcer or a TV spokesperson at times. As for the English dub, Aigis can sound a bit monotone and robotic, similar to AI.
Shadow South. Initializing combat mode. Shadow 発見。戦闘態勢に入ります。
The reason why I prefer the English dub is not necessarily the delivery of the robotic voice, but what comes after. As Aiga slowly learns more about human life and the world, she slowly begins to understand what it means to live. She changes so much from having difficulty comprehending or expressing basic emotions to declaring to live her life as she wishes. It's a small difference in delivery, but it really helps bring out the character growth Aiga goes through. Getting back to the English dub issue though, I'll be honest, there are times when the dialogue just doesn't sound right. So if it isn't the voice actors, then what's the issue?
Some things you only pick up stepping off the straight and narrow.
Oh, wait, it's starting. Man, the tension is palpable.
You're not gonna believe it. This thing is huge.
If the story has aged like wine, then the script has aged like milk. I get it. Persona 3 originally came out nearly 20 years ago. I still think more than a few lines should have been tweaked a little bit, but I also understand wanting to keep the initial script intact for consistency's sake. And if I'm being honest, a lot of those bad lines end up being pretty funny more times than not.
Get out of here, you Philistine! I don't want to see your face ever again!
Grandpa! Grandpa!
Other than those minor hiccups, the delivery that each of the voice actors gave was fantastic to say the least. At the end of my first playthrough, I had no idea why I was even crying for these fictional characters. It wasn't until my second playthrough when I realized how real this story felt. There's always so much chaos going on in the world, and sometimes we can't help but wonder if things will be okay in the near future. And it feels there's not a whole lot we can do when the whole world is mostly content with how things are and move on, because that's just how life is. And Persona 3 portrays this hopelessness so well throughout the story. Over the course of a year, you watch the people around you go through a lot of pain and strife, and despite all that, are able to come back even stronger from it. And at the end of the day, it's not just about killing some mighty god and saving the world with the power of friendship. It's about being able to live your own life the way you wish to the fullest, and with no regrets. This is what makes seeing the journey through to the end worth it. This game undoubtedly has the best story throughout the modern Persona series, and I can't wait to see where the answer takes us next in the story. Back when I dropped Persona 3 Portable last year, I had a hard time seeing why this one was favored so much by the community. I just assumed it was overrated, since it was the entry that shifted the game's formula to what most people are familiar with. And I've never been this glad to have been wrong about a game before. Persona 3 Reload is not a perfect game, but it's these imperfections that make the game so charming. If you're a fan of RPGs and great storytelling, this is one of the best JRPGs to come out in 2006 and 2024. The only thing left that I can say now is, go play this game. It is definitely worth your time. And if you already did, go play it again.
No
have 3 fine-looking teachers coming in.
Kenji,
After
get out of
Emmy,
here. You're ruining
Miss
my
Kano.
outro.